Two big things. I'm Stephen Means, and that's Stefan Krajisnik. And this is another episode of the things we're thinking about as Ohio State heads into another game week. They'll play Purdue on Saturday in their second to last road game of the season. This is also the second time they've headed to West Lafayette since Ryan Day took over as head coach, and the third time they've been since he's been at Ohio State. They lost in 2018, they won in 2023, and now they'll go back to try to get another win on Saturday. Stefan, what are you thinking about an 8-0 Buckeyes heading into game number 9?
Yeah, we've seen some great performances from Ohio State's defense, and I emerged from the Penn State game, which maybe was not their best defensive performance of the season. It's still a very good one. Thinking to myself, Edric Houston is starting to get unlocked, and I'm curious to hear what more Ryan Day has to say about his performance, because he talked pretty highly of Edric going into the Penn State game, right? Because it had been, he had played decent, down the stretch right before the bye week. And then I think it was against Wisconsin. He played pretty well. Then Ohio State has the bye week. And coming into Penn State, Ryan Day had some good things to say about Edric Houston's consistency and things of that nature. Maybe what was going on, not just on Saturdays, but kind of how he's been handling, practice and things of that nature going into the Penn State game. And he got his highest grade from PFF in that Penn State game, and it was by a wide margin. I think he was up in the 90s, like 92, which is just an outstanding grade to get no matter who you are. But especially for a guy like Edric, who's starting to come along and maybe be the player that we expected him to be this year, that's a scary, I don't want to say addition because he's been part of the equation, right? But like that's a scary thing to kind of add into the mix for Ohio State, is like that version of Edric Houston. It kind of does feel like picking up a free agent in the middle of the season, being like, all right, like now we got this version of this guy. I think he played 20 snaps or something like that against Penn State. He had a pressure. I mean, he was just outstanding. And if that, like, we know what Caden Curry can do. We saw Kenyatta Jackson maybe have his best game against Penn State, or at least, he was a defensive player of the game. Caden McDonald has been a force all season. And Tywone Malone's been really good for Ohio State at defensive tackle. But I think we all knew Tywone Malone is great. There's still a ceiling factor to Edric Houston that's so intriguing. And if he's starting to tap into that Ohio State front four becomes so much more dangerous. And now you start thinking about what Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs and Jermaine Matthews and what these guys can do in terms of pass rush as well. Like, there's no weakness on a defensive line. And we came into the season with questions about defensive tackle depth, because we knew Caden McDonald's going to be pretty good. Edric Houston's going to be pretty good. Who's going to be the next guy? And then we got to the midway point in the season. We said, okay, well, we know who the next guy is because Tywone Malone has progressed. But hang on, there's a piece missing from this because Edric Houston maybe isn't what we expected. And now we're here where Edric is looking like the guy we thought Edric could be. Caden McDonald's looking like the person we knew he was going to be, and he has been. And now you also have that fact of Tywone Malone, who keeps starting games for you. That trio, along with what Will Smith Jr. is doing kind of as a backup option as well behind Caden McDonald, like talking about depth and high-level talent, both happening at the same time at defensive tackle, that's an element to this defense that we haven't maybe seen at full go through 7 games or 8 games. Going down this stretch, we'll see what happens with Haynes at Michigan, what his health looks like. But if Edric is playing like that and this defensive tackle room is now what it's kind of starting to form into, that's huge for the game at the end of November. That's huge for when you go against Michigan. So Edric Houston, let's hear what Ryan Day, and maybe as we go to Wednesday and talk to some of the players, the way they talk about Edric and the way he's progressing, it's a huge boost for this team.
Yeah, Larry Johnson's pretty good at this, huh? He's pretty solid at this. I think what's interesting is I think we're officially at a year since Edric Houston made that switch.
Yeah,
that's part of what's probably popping up here. He's a year into this and understands what he's doing a little bit more, but also he's healthy. You got to remember the first day of practice for fall camp, he gets hurt. And we saw him, Stefan, leaving the field earlier this season with some injuries as well. If it seems like he took the second bye week to not only get healthy, but now he's fully comfortable in that role. You're right. That sack he had was amazing. He bullied an interior offensive lineman and then got a strip sack out of it. Unfortunately, it didn't end in a turnover, but that play, I think, has been in all of our minds of like, that's why we thought Edric Houston moving to defensive tackle was scary. And if he's about to tap into that a little bit more and you pair that with everything else you're talking about, Stefan, that's how all of a sudden a group that we were questioning no less than 2.5 months ago is now becoming a strength at the right time for Ohio State. I'm still trying to figure out how to ask Ryan Day about the Heisman Trophy in a way that's not about me trying to ask him, hey, do you think Julian Sand or Jeremiah Smith should win the Heisman Trophy? Because the answer to that, regardless of what he says, is going to be yes. It's just there's no purpose in that right now, him saying that. Well, I think what he said after the game Saturday, Stefan, where he said, I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he at least deserves to be in the conversation. I think that's the furthest he's going to go on that subject, because what this boils down to is none of this matters if they don't beat Michigan, right? I mean, C.J. Stroud 2 years in a row probably should have won the Heisman Trophy, and he didn't beat Michigan, so who cares what he should have done? He didn't beat Michigan, so he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy. Justin Fields had to deal with Joe Burrow, so that was never going to happen. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a wide receiver who also didn't beat Michigan, but also had to deal with Jaden Daniels, so it was probably never going to happen. But how much does the award actually matter to Ryan Day? The tangible award of it all. And the reason why I've been thinking about this is because a national championship kind of stamped him, right? The leave no doubt, all that different stuff. And you don't have to agree with everything Ryan Day does, but you at least have to see and give it a benefit of the doubt and give it a level of like, okay, he's doing something. You at least know, the Ryan Day process works and can lead into a national championship because a trophy stamped that and validated that. Does the same apply to the Heisman Trophy? Or is just having guys who are constantly getting to New York matter? Is that enough, right? He's had 3 different position groups get to New York already: a defensive end, multiple quarterbacks, and a wide receiver. And the way this season is going right now, it's not going to be actually, I think we'd be shocked if he doesn't get his 4th quarterback to New York, right? And I think it wouldn't be shocking if he gets a 2nd receiver to New York. Is that enough? Because that means they're constantly in the mix, which is what Ohio State has been. When you're this consistent, you're constantly in the mix for national championships. Or do you need to get over the hump and finally win the dang thing? Because that stamps you. And I'm wondering, does that concept, which obviously apply to winning a national championship, which is the biggest thing you can do as a team, does that apply to the Heisman Trophy, which is the biggest thing you can do as an individual? I know it's not your focus, but how much does it matter? Being able to have that stamp of validation that not only do we have guys who are getting to New York, we are winning the Heisman Trophy. Lincoln Riley can say that. I have had multiple Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Ryan Day can't say that yet. And I'm wondering if that's something that he cares about, because it feels like more than ever, I think this is the best chance he's had of all the years right now. When you look at what their schedule is, what they've already accomplished, and then these Michigan teams are not the Michigan teams that C.J. Stroud faced. They're fine, but they're not top 5 teams in the country.
Yeah, it goes a long way. I think the trophy does mean something of in terms of winning it, and not just going to New York, right? Like, I don't know, LSU isn't posting hype videos of Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow, hanging out in New York. They're
Right.
posting videos of them hoisting the trophy, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I joined the beat last year. I haven't seen a video yet of CJ Stroud in New York, like used in a hype video or something like that, right? But guess what? If CJ Stroud had lifted the trophy, I'm sure that would be used in some promotional, material. So it goes a long way. It's, I don't know. Will Howard or Joe Burrow or whoever it was, whoever wins a national championship, them smoking cigars after winning a natty goes a long way. We usually don't see them smoking cigars before the game, right? So it's like that stuff of like doing it, like winning it, goes a long way. And then, yeah, if you want to, you want to label yourself as QBU, I think winning the Heisman is important, because I think Ryan Day has proven that if he's not the best, he's one of the best quarterback developers in the country. But like, what's the name that always comes up? Lincoln Riley. And what does he have? Quarterbacks who have won the Heisman, right? Like that's the stuff that comes up. Like, these trophies go a long way, just because when you have one of those, your name's just automatically in that conversation. Like, no matter what, like Julian Sand wins the Heisman. Okay, when you talk about all-time like quarterback developers, you have to mention Ryan Day's name, because that is the one thing that's always it's when we did over the summer, our greatest Buckeye bracket. And it's like Troy Smith's going to be part of that conversation, no matter what, because he won the Heisman. Archie Griffin's going to win this no matter what. You know why? Because he won the Heisman twice. Like, it goes like you're automatic. And Troy didn't win, right? Archie won it. But Troy didn't win. I can't remember if Troy got to the semis for us. But it's like you have to have him in the conversation no matter what, because he did something that CJ Stroud didn't do.
And so, in this world where I think we're all just counting down the days to Michigan, these are the questions we're asking. Hey, your 5-star defensive tackle is starting to play like your 5-star defensive tackle. And hey, do you want to win the Heisman Trophy? 614-350-3315, 2
They're
week free
playing. They're
trial.
playing Purdue on Saturday. By the way,
I think that's the first time. We've now done 2 different things, you and I, between a Monday pod and this. I think this is going to be the first time because Gillis and I are doing a recruiting pod that you can go listen to right now. We're not going to mention Purdue on that. So I think this is the first time that Purdue's name is going to be mentioned. And it's probably the last time into the game preview pod that Purdue is going to be mentioned because that's what happens when you still have not won a Big Ten game. 614-350-3315, 2 week free trial, $3.99 after that. Those are the things we're thinking about as Ohio State heads into its 9th game of the season. You see how I still didn't mention Purdue. 9th game of the season, second to last road game of the year. That's Stefan. I'm Steven. Talk to you guys later.